All right, very good. You're now live on YouTube. Take it away, Mike.
Well, that was perfect timing because it gave me time to put my pronouns in my box. So I'm Mike and I use they, them pronouns. And Tricarico.
Hi, I'm Tricarico. I also use they, them pronouns. I'll pass it to Alex.
I am Alex Das. I use she, her pronouns.
And I'm Gretchen and I'm staff to the commission and use she, her pronouns.
Great. Well, we have a very nice agenda that Gretchen put together for us. I don't have opening remarks, but I have some thoughts if we have time and some ideas I wanted to talk about with the group, maybe during member remarks and announcements, if we get through the rest of our agenda. Just things that have been rattling around in my brain. We don't have any public comment, it doesn't seem. And did you say we're shy of quorum, so we're unable to approve the minutes? Is that right?
Correct and correct.
Okay, so we'll skip the minutes for today. And that takes us to the web page and organization info project. I know that I haven't done my part, so I'll just own that right from the start. And how is it going with the rest of the listings?
I actually didn't receive any additional information over the past month, so it'll be good to kind of redo the request and encourage everybody to get it in. I do have an update though from the web page side. I started to engage the IT department in making our page, and they asked me to just confirm what other information we would like to see on the page for the task force. I wondered if it would make sense to utilize the language that's in the brochure as sort of the language. And then I wondered if it makes sense to move over the survey. You might know that there's a survey that was developed for Capitol Pride a couple summers ago, and we've just had it on the Human Rights Commission page, but it had a particular focus on LGBTQIA plus communities, and I could move that survey to the task force page. That might make some sense. But I wondered how all that sounded and if there's other things besides the eventual organizations list you'd like to see on the task force page.
Anybody have any thoughts about that proposal?
Yeah, this is Tricarico. I'm wondering, and I don't know how this would happen, but it might be kind of nice to have some events on the page. I know a big thing that people are often looking for when they want to connect with the queer community is other events. I don't know, again, what that would look like as far as like who finds the events. You know, maybe that's something we just kind of submit when we hear about it. But I think it would be kind of cool if we could have local events that are either, you know, LGBTQIA plus friendly or for that community, just so that, you know, when it's not pandemic times, we can go out and meet other people.
That shouldn't be a problem. The web page, what's the word, skeleton or kind of structure always has a calendar of events, and I'm able to upload things to specific calendars. So I don't see a reason why that wouldn't work.
Cool, thank you.
It's a great way to include our things that we definitely know about, like Trans Day of Remembrance, as well as our own task force meetings. So really outstanding suggestion. I also like the suggestion of moving the survey simply because we will be at some point repeating the larger survey, the broader discrimination survey. So I think it makes sense for the LGBTQ survey to be on a specific page. And there would be a link right on the HRC page to the LGBTQ page.
Correct.
So people in our community would still be able to find that survey, I would think.
Oh, also, I was wondering, because this task force has public members, could we put some information on how people can get involved and become a part of the task force? I mean, other than attending, like what does that process look like? Because it might be nice to have a few more people. So, because then we can have quorum more easily. I know everyone's really busy. So, if we had a couple more people, that might be nice. And I think there are people right now, especially wanting to get more and more involved with city affairs. So, this would be a great avenue for people wanting to kind of learn more about stuff.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I can write up a couple sentences on like how to get involved and how to join and when the meetings are and stuff like that. Sure.
Awesome.
Do
Thank
we
you.
have any particular limits on our membership, or is it really open to anyone in the city of Salem, or how does that work? Does it have to get approved by anyone like at HR at the commission level?
I need to pull out the bylaws to make sure that I remember, and I can do that while we're talking. What I remember is that you can have both community members and commission members. And the city has generally looked for people who have some interaction with Salem, but they haven't been hardcore about you have to live here, because we recognize some people might work here or play here or recreate here. And so we've been flexible about people who might live in county but interact in Salem. And I have never seen a maximum number listed in the bylaws. Approval, I want to double check, and I'll try to call up the bylaws here real quick. I believe that the chair of the Human Rights Commission appoints the chair of the task force, but membership I'm forgetting. So I'll try to take a peek real quick at the bylaws while we're talking. But
And
feel free
Gretchen,
to,
there's no other, sorry, while you're checking, I just wanted to ask, is there any rule that says a task force should have more commissioners than other general community members, or?
not that I remember, but I've got the bylaws opening right now on my computer. And okay, let's get down to the groups, committees and task forces. It says the chair of the commission shall appoint members, and it does not specify any kind of balance, like you asked, Alex, like, do there need to be more commissioners than community members? It doesn't specify.
Okay.
So if we knew of individuals who were interested, we would just need to check in with Angelo about.
Yes, I agree. And it's not required, but I might also suggest that they visit a meeting. That's a cultural practice at the city to encourage, if somebody applies to be on a board or commission, we encourage them to come and attend a meeting, because it can just help with clarifying questions and, you know, helping it confirm that's what they're interested in doing.
I knew it was really helpful for me when I joined the commission to come by a meeting first. And if a member of the public wants to attend LGBTQ task force, or they happen upon this video on YouTube, hi public, would they just reach out to you, Gretchen?
Yes, please.
And there's information on the website about that?
There is, yeah. And the contact information, we have an email that's easy to remember. It's humanrights@cityofsalem.net, or calling 503-540-2371. And I'm happy to share the participation link to participate in the meetings until we come back to face-to-face.
Fabulous. It does feel like face-to-face is a while away, doesn't it? It is really nice to see all of your faces tonight during this time. So wacky. Were there any other comments about the website project before we go on to next agenda? All right, our next agenda item was the pronouns recommendation, and we did a good job of opening our meeting with our pronouns, so that was cool. Have we, has anybody put together any of the things that we thought we might put together for Gretchen? And this is another one where I'm taking ownership of not really making very much progress on this.
I
Mr.
didn't do
Tricarico
that,
shaking
so.
their head as well.
I didn't either. I wanted to work on it. I kept imagining it and writing it in my mind, but I didn't actually take the next step of sitting down and doing it. Tricarico had sent some resources a while back, and that's a great place to begin.
I'm shaking my head too. I haven't done anything. I'm sorry.
I think my struggle is what exactly are we trying to put together? Because I know we had the recommendation of like the practices, but I think there was some discussion around like maybe best practices like in the moment. Is that sounding right to everybody?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of things. I think that we talked about how the pronoun part of it is actually really simple. It's giving people the lay of the land of how to ask the question and how to have people introduce their pronouns, and guidance around what to do if you mess up. And then it seemed like we wanted to collect those things into a document, and we wanted to, I think, talk with Krista in particular, but maybe other communities as well, around other types of accessibility that we might add to that document. In particular for, and it's interesting because we're not following the practice here today, but the piece about saying your name when you're speaking so the interpreter can get your name. Those kinds of practices were some of the things that we thought about also including in the document. So it seemed to me like what we were kind of maybe trying to get to is a couple page document that's mostly bullets because people don't read anyway. And that just had what those practices are, and then to maybe try to shop that document around to the different commissions for the city. That's what I recall. But I sometimes have a very weird memory, so.
No, this is Tricarico. That sounds right. And I really like the accessibility piece. I think for me, I was also thinking about, even when we start meeting in person, it might be nice to keep having our meetings live streamed. That's like another accessibility consideration. So I think that the practice of saying our names will continue to be important. It's also just a nice practice for someone who maybe doesn't have the best vision so they can know who is speaking, right? Like it's not just for Krista and the interpreters. I think there's a lot of people who would benefit from those small accessibility gestures. So this is something I could probably work on a draft, maybe with Gretchen, and then we can send it out to everybody and see what you think, and then to Krista for any additional considerations. Gretchen, if you don't hear from me by next week, will you send me a reminder?
Well, thank you.
I am like so ridiculously on top of things when it's work things, but my personal laptop is such a mess that stuff gets lost. So I will make a reminder for myself, have you as backup, and I'll try to get something over the next week.
That sounds good. I appreciate it. I don't know, there's like 26 boards and commissions at the city, and there's varied and diverse participation. Everybody focuses on everything from the airport to traffic, to business development. And so we don't know the perspectives and the knowledge level. So it seems like writing to a very general audience will be helpful.
Yeah, I think there was discussion about maybe having some introductory language about like why pronouns are important, because like you said, general audience, there could be some folks who just aren't familiar with why it's important.
Yeah.
Chikarko, you mentioned a website last time. I forget what it is now, but I remember looking it up and it was so informative.
There's
A
a
website
couple.
that actually talked about why, I think it was called Why Pronouns Matter or something like that.
Oh, you know what? It's probably from Rhodes Perry because I had just attended his presentation about belonging at work, and he had this whole great thing about it. So it's probably that. But I'll go back
Probably.
through and look and try to include that because, yeah, you know, I'm thinking about pronouns all the time. To me, it's like duh, it's important, but having it explained out really explicitly like that also helped me understand. So yeah, I'll try to find that. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that, Chikarko.
Yeah.
Do you have any other comment about pronouns recommendation? Our next topic is our unsheltered services survey. And Gretchen and I had a little brief discussion about this last week. There was a meeting, I think the meeting was even scheduled for today or tomorrow, of a coalition group that works on unsheltered issues. Unfortunately, Krista, nor I, nor Gretchen were able to attend that meeting. We all had scheduling conflicts. So we're not going to be able to meet with that group until September. We did hear from someone that Gretchen had gotten feedback on the, or had sent out kind of the preliminary survey. Is that right? Do you want to maybe explain that more? Because I'm sure that I will not say it the right way.
Oh, I'd be happy to. I sent our survey to the convener of the committee that I was imagining would be a great place to share this survey with, and I was getting their feedback on, should I just directly contact the organizations, or would this be good to do as kind of part of the committee structure, because they do have a goal and strategic plan around specific populations and wanting to ensure accessibility. So our goals seemed aligned. So I was kind of checking in with them, and they observed that maybe there's a couple of goals at play. One being hearing directly from people who are unsheltered about what their barriers may be, and hearing from organizations that deliver services about what their policies are, what their practices are, what their procedures are, how they approach these topics. And she was asking which we were interested in, and in discussion with Mike, I think we recognize both are valuable, but we absolutely want to hear from the organizations about what are your policies and practices. You know, a lot of those questions that are in our survey document.
Yeah, I felt as though in the communication, it was kind of positioned as an either or. And to me, it was so important that we find out what the organization's policies and practices are. I think knowing if an organization is actively non-discriminatory is just a very important piece of the puzzle that we would not necessarily get from the unsheltered residents. The unsheltered residents may tell us their experiences, how they feel, what is going on for them, what's happening in their world, but we can't really understand the systems behind it if we don't find out from the organizations what their policies are. So that was kind of the discussion. And I think it sounds like the person on the other end was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do both, right?
Yeah.
So that meeting will be later in September, and hopefully we'll get some movement on that at that point.
Correct. I've got the survey document ready to go. So I think as soon as we set the stage and inform the organizations, I should be able to release it and collect information. And I've met so many of them now through my work with our unsheltered neighbors. So that should help too.
I wonder, this is just me wondering, if there's an LGBTQIA component of this. You sent me an email about Linnell, who's our community volunteer who helped us get all of those surveys when we were doing the discrimination survey. I wonder if she has a connection, might even be able to give us insight into the LGBTQIA plus population that might be out there, where you know, with the unsheltered population. I'd just be really curious what she knows and what she hears on the street. I mean, I have this sort of sense that a lot of queer people end up being unsheltered because of challenges with their families of origin. We know statistically that exists, but we don't really know our unsheltered neighbors in Salem that well, or we may not have as many personal relationships with them. And I was thinking about how recently I went to Wilma's workshop, and she was talking about solidarity and the idea of solidarity being about relationship. And so if we don't know if our LGBTQIA plus brothers and sisters are in the unsheltered community and we don't know them, how can we best support them? So I wondered if that connection might be one that we would explore and see what she knows about folks out on the street.
It's a great idea. And Linnell will be speaking at the September 1st Human Rights Commission meeting. So there's certainly an opportunity to ask. There's also, I mean, there's other providers as well to ask. The Northwest Human Services comes to mind, and the Project Through Community Action comes to mind, and so many others that are working with people. So I think there'll be several people to ask for them to share the relationships that they have and what they know.
Great, thank you. Alex and Tricarico, did either of you have any questions or comments to add to the unsheltered discussion?
No, I think you covered it all, Mike.
Well, our next topic is an important one because it's coming up in November, and that's Transgender Day of Remembrance. We have done this event for a few years now. I think that this year's discussion probably centers around how do we host this as a virtual event, assuming that we still want to do it. I have a strong bias that I would like to see us still do it. It's so important to elevate that issue. But I would just open it up for folks and see what people think.
Yeah, this is Tricarico. I agree with Mike. We should definitely try to make some form of digital version. I don't know what that looks like, but I think, you know, we could pretty much keep a pretty similar format to what we did last time, you know, just translate that to the virtual environment. And I agree, it's really important.
Yeah, I think we should keep it too. And last time when we shared like best practices and things to do better this time, we talked about how some folks would have preferred like something to like close the loop instead of like just turning on candles. And we said maybe, I think we said a panel discussion or getting people to stand up and share stories. Maybe that'll be easy on a virtual platform.
If you like, I can gather some information from colleagues. I think that the city has tried a couple of larger gatherings on digital environments where there was speakers and sharing if you want me to, before the next meeting, I can try to learn what they've learned and what they'd suggest from their experiences so far and bring that back as a report. And then you can kind of apply the content of this event into that framework if you like.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure we can do like a participant only kind of thing, and then we could have speakers that are like leading the event. And thank you, Alex, for bringing up that note about the wrap up, because I remember that too. There was kind of like this weird, like, especially because it's such an emotional event, I kind of felt like we needed something to kind of, I don't want to say like take care of people or like make it happy, but like just give them closure, because it was kind of like raw at the end. So maybe there's some kind of like video, like you said, or like people could make a video of their story, or a speaker who can wrap it up. I really like that idea, to make sure that we're kind of ending it nicely.
Yeah.
I agree as well. And it seems like we're even at more of a disadvantage this year, because at least last year, even though we didn't really have a strong wrap up, people stayed and were able to talk for a while. And I think that that helped people take care of each other informally. But I agree. It seems like we need to wrap a little more program into it, and have it end on a note that uh, reminds us all of why we came together, I think. I really resist the idea of saying end on a happy note, because it's not going to end on a happy note.
Yeah, that was my thought too.
And I don't even think that a hopeful note is quite right, because it's not, but it's a note of we took this time together, and this time was meaningful.
Yeah. Kind of like solidarity, going back to what you were talking about, Wilma's presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Do we know the date?
I actually was just wondering,
Thursday?
I've not Googled it. We just need to Google it because it's an international thing. Let's see.
November 20th.
Thank you.
It's a Friday this year. Not that days of the week have meaning anymore, but it's notable.
Okay.
It's
So
you.
Wonder about the candles.
yeah.
Like, is there a virtual version of a candle, or do we just invite people to bring whatever candle they have at home, or how does that part even work?
I mean, that could be kind of a fun activity that people could choose to participate in. Like, you could choose to light your candle and have it with you. Like, please be safe and don't light yourself on fire where everyone can see it. But or like an LED one maybe for if you're nervous. But I think that would be a way to kind of like bring the ceremony to you, because it's the virtual thing. Like it's a pretty small thing. Yeah, I mean, that could be kind of a nice gesture as far as participating.
So on the invite, we could invite people to bring their own candles.
Yeah.
Would you like me to reach out to Byron? Byron's designed the flyer in the past, and ask if they'd like to do that again and make this note about BYOC.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And if Byron is for any reason unable, I do those little kinds of things too. I'd be happy to do the flyer.
Great. Would the committee want a change in the style, or would you want to keep, there's an argument for consistent branding so people come to recognize the event, and maybe there's desires to make change? How should I, Byron might ask me that, how should I answer on that?
I kind of lean toward letting Byron do what Byron does. Byron is in the same field as I'm in, and you can make an argument either way. And I trust his judgment. You used they pronouns for Byron before, but I do think
I think it's he, him.
I think it's he, him.
Me too. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think since the overall structure is going to stay the same, you know, with the exception of having that extra closure piece, as long as we keep that kind of consistent with the messaging, I'm cool with whatever Byron does. Yeah, I trust his judgment too.
It might help to begin to think about readers of the names. Sometimes that can take a little bit of time to decide. And for people to have time to prepare, because some of the names can be challenging to say since they come from all over the world. So just the thought about that.
I know that my wife would like to do it again. She enjoyed doing it, and she mentioned it to me earlier that she'd like to do it again. So, got one reader.
Good.
She speaks Spanish, so it helped her with the names.
Yeah,
Can we put the word out in the community to ask more people if they would be willing to?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, that was going to be my
Yes.
offer is ask, like put out some feelers about, okay, what would be a good closing activity for this and who would be interested in reading some names.
I was thinking that Capital Pride might help us. They often post things for other organizations. They've kind of taken that role, and so perhaps they could help us get the word out. And other groups, of course, but Capital Pride came to mind.
This task force
Rainbow
also
Youth.
has a mailing list of approximately maybe 98 or so people, maybe 100 that have over the years signed up to receive updates from this task force. If you had something, I could easily send that group a message or a question. I wonder if anyone would want to write what you'd want that to look like. I might feel more comfortable if it came from one of you to get it right, but I'd be happy to send that. Or maybe I'm overthinking it, and maybe it's just this is the event. We're looking for ideas in these areas. If you have suggestions, let us know.
I could take a stab at it, Gretchen, or I could bounce off of whatever you would come up with either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I guess whichever of us emails the other in the next few days
Day
or
or
so.
I'm on vacation the next 2 days, so I don't know how much emailing I'm gonna get done. I'm
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Well, is there any other details of Trans Day of Remembrance we think we should talk about today? We'll have 2 meetings before the event. We'll have the September and October meetings as well. It seems like I tend to think that getting the word out about 6 weeks to a month ahead of the event is usually really good. If you do it too much further out than that, then you people forget really easily. But if we were to do it about a month ahead and then have maybe we could even set a reminder for that week, that tends to work pretty well. But
Yeah, there's an event. I'm trying to remember which day it is. I think it's a month from today. Yeah, I think it's exactly a month, September 26th. And I can talk more about those in member remarks. It'd be nice to have a flyer by September 26th so that we can bring that to this event. And I think that would have a lot of people who are interested.
I think we could make that work. And if Byron, for whatever reason, can't make it work by that date, then just send it over to me. I'll get it done. Is there anything else that we would like to talk about or think about for Trans Day of Remembrance? So our last segment is member remarks and announcements. I have a couple of ideas I wanted to share today. Would you like me to go first, or Tricarico, you have some remarks as well about some events coming up?
Yeah, so I think I sent this out via Gretchen. There's a Young Voices rally planned, and it is September 26th, I'm confirming, from 12 to 3. It will be over at the Medical Center Drive, which is also the place that we looked at as a potential shelter with the city. So they've offered to use their parking lot for that event. And the point is really to get young people involved in like local government, local issues, local politics. So obviously I would love for the HRC to be there. I would love for, our event, our Trans Day of Remembrance event to be there, because a lot of the people that are getting involved in local activism are part of the queer community. Especially, I would love to have that information on how to join, the LGBTQ task force and the other task forces and the HRC and any other board and commission, because the idea is really to kind of train people and teach people, like, how do you get on a commission? How do you show up at a public meeting and make a public comment and get involved? I'm sure you've probably noticed so many people are wanting to get involved, and it's fantastic, but a lot of people don't know how. So there's just a lot of really great opportunity to share our work, to get support, to get people involved, to get people interested in our meetings and what we're doing. So I can't, because I'm helping organize the event and will probably also be a speaker. I don't know what I'm gonna talk about, but it would be really nice if we could have some members there to, do a booth and be prepared to kind of talk about what it looks like to be involved with what we're doing. And like what things we're working on, because there's a lot of really important things we're working on. And I think it'd be great to have some more folks helping us.
Is that a Saturday?
Yeah, it's a Saturday.
Yeah, I can make that event, awesome. So I could table.
Awesome. I mean, I can certainly help out in between.
Sure.
But
I'm sure we can pick up a couple other HRC folks. Maybe at our meeting on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, I'll talk about it then too, but I definitely wanted to share that with y'all because we were talking about, people getting involved and that kind of thing. So that's my remark for the night.
Alex, did you have any member remarks? Or do you want me to dive into my idea?
I don't have any updates, so you can go ahead.
I had two ideas, and they're very half-baked. But as I think about our work together on this task force, I think it's worth, thinking big and trying some things and maybe at least discussing whether any of these ideas are viable. One is a discussion that I've had a couple times with Danielle. Danielle, a couple of years ago, had some interest in sort of building a coalition and community around the idea of an LGBTQIA center, some kind of physical space where LGBTQIA people can kind of come together in community. And she had some ideas, I think some very loose ideas of it at the time, but wasn't in a position to be able to pull people together to discuss it very much. Of course, she was chairing the Human Rights Commission at the time, which takes quite a lot of energy. But ever since she and I talked about it, I've been thinking about it, and I've been wondering what role what role can city commissions and city commission task forces play in bringing together community for important ideas like that, that kind of deserve a bit of space and discussion. So that was my first idea. And then also on the tip of safe spaces, I was really thinking about the queer person's life as they navigate our city. And on a lot of college campuses, they do work around safe spaces, visible, often decals and windows and stickers and things like that, that signal to queer people that this is a safe place to be. And I was wondering if there was ever an opportunity to partner with the business community in this city, particularly LGBTQIA plus friendly businesses, around building some kind of safe space campaign where businesses could start to identify, self-identify if they are a welcoming place for LGBTQI people. Perhaps as part of a safe space program, for example, a business might sign a pledge that they will respect the pronouns of individuals that come into their space, or that same-sex same-sex couples, or visibly queer couples, I should say, will be treated respectfully within the establishment, and be allowed, if it's like a dancing place, be comfortable dancing together, or whatever that looks like. But I just have been giving thought to both of these ideas because the idea of safe space for queer people, I think, is just becoming more and more and more critical. I've also been thinking about our youth. When I was on the board of Rainbow Youth, we did talk a few times about the fact that the best option for Rainbow Youth to meet was at a church. And how that was maybe a barrier for some who had experienced religious trauma due to being queer. And so I also have often wondered, and we discussed at length as a board, whether there were options that were non-religious, so that all of the youth could be brought in and could feel comfortable in the space. And so the ideas of safe spaces swirling around in my brain, and both the center concept and the safe spaces campaign concept kind of came up for me. And I wondered if either was viable, and if we should maybe consider tackling that as a task force.
Yeah, Tricarico here. It's actually really funny that you bring that up, because I'm actually having conversations about that very same thing. So Wade, Bishop Wade, who came to talk to us about the center, has agreed that we could use part of the space at that center for like an LGBTQIA plus space, right?
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Really?
I was like, oh my God. So it's super awesome that you're thinking that. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, but like, that's actually something that's kind of already in the works. I don't know what it's going to look like and what's going to happen because of us being in the pandemic, but I've already floated the idea of Rainbow Youth being able to meet there, because it's not a church. Now, it is a nonprofit that's run by a pastor, a bishop, and people in the faith community. But the conversations I had with them were very welcoming. They're like, yes, obviously, we follow this path, but we don't require people to convert or believe the way we believe to access our services. Cool. That's fantastic. Yeah. So, and I've been talking to him regularly about getting that going and what that could look like. I've also connected him with another gay couple who has some experience in grant writing and organizing to help, get the funding for that kind of thing, as well as experience with a community garden, which would not only benefit the queer folks accessing the space, but also any of the unsheltered folks who are accessing those services. Since those services are already in place, there's also some addiction services being put in place. So it really has the possibility to become a really amazing community center, and could be kind of the epicenter of this, campaign that you're talking about for inclusion, right? I think that could be a really great first project for this center and for, you know, whoever wants to be involved in that. So yeah, that's already happening actually.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, I need to kind of get on that a little more and figure out what that looks like. I know that one of the meetings is scheduled for Labor Day weekend to talk about like the community garden aspect and the funding aspect. Because I think there are definitely some grants out there specifically for serving like queer youth and queer spaces. And I'd love to get that available so we can create that space. So, and I don't know if you've had a chance to explore the space further, but you know, in addition to all the great rooms and the individual like apartments and shared kitchen spaces, there's also a commercial kitchen and like large meeting spaces. So there's a lot of potential and possibility for this place. And I already know that there is at least a willingness to entertain some ideas around a queer space, you know, having meetings there for sure, possibly doing more, because there, I mean, there's just so many things you could do, and it wouldn't necessarily be only queer people, right? Like it would benefit anyone accessing services. There's also gym equipment too. So, you know, I talk to people about like, we could make a queer friendly gym time, right? Because that's a huge thing that people don't always feel comfortable about. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff that we could do. And I would love to get this task force involved in helping with getting that set up, because yeah, it's just a really amazing opportunity and really amazing people that I'd love to support by, you know, partnering with them and helping them get this center where they want it to be as well.
I think that's genius and brilliant.
Yeah.
I wonder then, you know, from a task force perspective, one, it seems like we could be very supportive of that work. We could be helping to get the word out. We could maybe have them come and visit task force as well and talk about that work. I also wonder if maybe we could then shift and maybe look at the safe space concept as a task force, because that is sort of about broadening it out a little bit more into the community. And so it's a very exciting and electric conversation, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome.
Because I love the idea of, you know, safe spaces. I also wonder, like, is there an app for that? Literally. I mean, I know that there's apps for bathrooms, right? So like, could we get something in the Salem area, you know, that someone could look up, like, where can I go get coffee with my partner who's obviously queer and I'm queer, you know, like, where can I go get coffee with my rainbow glasses, which I haven't gotten harassed for my glasses. I've only gotten compliments, but I feel very lucky. You know, so yeah, I think that's a great thing. I think it's also a good way, you know, like Alexandra talked about solidarity and relationships, right? Like build relationships with the businesses in the area, which just does a lot of great things for us, you know, some publicity, some awareness. But also I think kind of sets an expectation, like when Mike talked about the pledge, like this is what we expect. And if some of those expectations are new, or
Hi, Kariko, I suddenly can't hear you.
Oh.
I don't know if anyone else can still hear you.
I didn't have a problem.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
It sounds like it's just me.
Okay.
But I'm the one running YouTube, so that's a concern.
Yeah, I hope I didn't cut off everything.
I heard up until you were describing the benefits of the app and getting coffee, and then after that I couldn't hear. But if you all could hear, I'll make sure my cell phone Wi-Fi is off and try to figure out other things I can do. My Wi-Fi is already off on my cell. I'm not sure how to strengthen our connection.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, I switched to headphones, so maybe that will help.
Sorry.
Boy, no, what was I saying? So expectations around the pledge, you know, and that's a really great opportunity for conversation. If there's something about that pledge, you know, like maybe someone isn't familiar with why pronouns are important, right? So we can use that document to kind of open those conversations. And I feel like that really has the potential to ripple out into a just greater overall sense of belonging for queer people in the community, right? Like, I think it's great. It's a great like conversation starter. It's a great way to get our work out there. It's a great way to make sure we're serving the community that our task force is designed to serve. So I love all of this. I think it's great.
I might add, just in case it's helpful, a few years ago, there was an organization called Allies for Equality that was meeting. They disbanded and needed a place to put their stuff. And my office became that space. And included in their stuff was several boxes of pledges, documents. They had done a pledge project. They had the idea of organizations could pledge to be safe spaces and support. And there were brochures and decals. It's been a while since I've opened the boxes and looked inside, but that's what I'm remembering. That might be helpful to dust off and look at in case the concepts are aligned and the materials can be helpful.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great starting point. I'm also wondering, since we just added the intersectionality piece to our title, like, could we bring in some expectations about racism too? Like, this is a place where we respect pronouns. This is a place where we don't tolerate racist behavior or racist language, which kind of just speaks to the HRC overall of making it a welcoming space for everyone, right? So I think that would be another thing to consider is like, can we make this safe for Black, Brown, and Indigenous people too, not just the queer people, which there are both, right? There are brown, Black, and queer people. But I don't want it to be overemphasized because in Oregon, most of those people are going to be white. And I want to make sure that we are explicitly including everyone in that conversation and in those expectations around safety and inclusion.
As well as accessibility.
Yeah.
I think that some of that can also be included. And it seems like businesses right now are sort of inelegantly self-identifying. I shouldn't say it's inelegant. They're doing it the way that they can. But businesses are self-identifying, and I think that there are businesses that would self-identify if they knew what that meant and how to do that. And so it seems to me like it's a real opportunity to broaden the network of businesses that are welcoming, and those that choose not to participate, it will always be a little controversial for them. I think when you do a safe space program, there's usually a little bit of grousing from folks who chose not to participate. But it is so important that queer, BIPOC, differently abled people have places where they know that they'll be respected and treated well. And I think that goal, in my view, sort of supersedes the discomfort somebody might feel about not wanting to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, perhaps then, hearing that people like this idea, we could put it on agendas for future, as well as maybe have a formal agenda item where we hear updates on the center work that is happening. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I'd be happy to fill you in on what's happening there, and what's possible, and just what's going on with that. I'd be happy to.
Do we need the larger commission approval if we're going to expand this safe space to more than just the LGBTQIA plus?
I would think so. I mean,
Gretchen.
Yeah, to me, it's like less about approval because I think that they would just jump up and down, but also, the broader commission's perspective on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think laying out the ideas and connecting with the broader commission makes a lot of sense. So maybe, that can be part of Mike's update to share with the commission about the concepts and then continue at future meetings. as you see questions or input opportunities. Well, we're near, I know we have the awareness task force meeting at 7. So I just want to point out that we're getting close up to the time.
Yeah. Were there any other things that folks wanted to share or say, or did we do our work? Hearing that we did our work tonight. I think we're ready to adjourn.
Great. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to sign off quickly and then go open the other meeting in case anyone's in the waiting room there. Good to talk to you.
Thank
See you
you.
there.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.